Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Chris Walker. I am responsible for market development here at ELAC. I've been here for just a little over 10 years, ever since ELAC came back to the United States. Prior to that, I was in charge of product planning at Pioneer Electronics on the home electronics side for 21 years. So I've been in the industry for quite a while. I was asked today by the folks at Davis, as well as our internal sales team, is to jump on the phone with you guys and kind of go over a little bit of an overview of who ELAC is and all the different products that we offer, so you guys are a little bit more familiar. It's a ton of information in a short amount of time. And when I say short amount of time, I know we have an hour, but it's still a lot of information. But if somebody has questions, feel free to jump on and ask. You can send me emails afterwards, whatever works. I'm really flexible. Um, but I'm guessing with that, I will go ahead and get started here. So hopefully everybody there is seeing my screen right now. The first thing I'd like to say is ELAC, the company itself, the term ELAC means electroacoustic, is where the actual original company name came from. This year is our 99th year in business. We were started in 1926 in Kiel, Germany. Next year will be our 100th anniversary. We'll have quite a bit of new products, technology introductions, new flagship products coming out to celebrate that 100th anniversary. And a lot of that's actually going to kick off at Expona next year in April, right outside of Chicago. Who is ELAC? So as I mentioned, we're founded in Kiel, Germany in 1926. We actually started off as a sonar manufacturer. We built fish finders. Kiel is on the northern side of Germany, where we were located, where we started at, which is a large fishing city, a large ocean, a lot of sailing races and things like that. And ELAC began as a sonar manufacturer, building fish finders and other type of sonar equipment for the area. I love to show this picture at the bottom right. ELAC was actually located in this lower portion of this photo that you see here. Let me turn my laser pointer real quick. Laser pointer was located down here when we first began building this product as part of the university in Kiel. As we began to grow and grow and grow, we outgrew this facility and ended up moving to a different facility, because at one point in time we had about 4,000 employees. ELAC ended up transitioning out of the sonar business in the 1940s and ended up becoming just a big manufacturer of consumer electronics goods. And that incorporated everything from integrated amplifiers, record players, television sets, speakers, clock radios, just a bunch of different variety of products. And these products were sold worldwide. The one product that ended up sticking out the most and being very, very dominant part of our business was the turntable business. This is the very first record player that we introduced, the PW1. This also had to be the very first stacking record player. So if you remember, you used to be able to put a stack of records on something, it'd finish the side of one, it'd drop the next one down, play that one, play that one, play that one. And turntables ended up becoming a massive, massive part of our business. During the course of almost 20 years, we were the third largest turntable manufacturer in the world. It was ourselves, Garrard and Dual, owned about 90% of the worldwide market for turntables. We're the inventor of the moving magnet stereo cartridge, which is the basis for pretty much every single turntable sold in the market today. And at that time, as I mentioned, we had a massive amount of employees, and we moved to a different location. We've been offsite away from the university for quite some time. Kind of a cool part of the story is that about 5 years ago, the owner of ELAC went back to the original facility, original part of the university, and actually purchased the original building and rebuilt our headquarters in the original place that we started. So turntables, as I mentioned, was a massive part of the business. We were in the turntable business up until mid 1970s. And at that point in time, the turntable business started to suffer quite a bit. We had introductions like 8-track, cassette, CD was right around the corner in the early 1980s, and the turntable business started to die. ELAC made the decision that we were going to transition from a turntable company into a speaker company. We partnered with another German speaker company called Axiom Electroacoustics, which was building high quality two-channel speakers based off the original Oscar Heil design using the air motion transformer tweeter, which we still use to this day, just obviously a much more advanced version of that since we started back in the late 70s, early 80s. But getting back to the fact that we're now in the original building we started at, it's just kind of a very cool story. Inside of this facility, we host everything from a product showroom. You can see here we highlight all the different products that we use, that we manufacture. We bring in press, dealers, distributors into this facility to show off everything off. That kind of rounded building in the back that you see with that room is actually a dedicated sound room. It's by far one of the most sophisticated sound rooms in all of Europe for listening. And we use this not only for doing evaluations of our own product, but we do competitive evaluations, but we do PR events, dealer events, distributor events in this and year, but a very, very sophisticated sound room built properly from the ground up, specifically for listening to stereo and multi-channel audio. Also includes our office area. Germany is still more of a closed office environment than it is more of an open office environment like we have here in the United States. But then the key to this is we still do a lot of the manufacturing in Kiel, Germany. So pretty much everything in the lineup from $2,000 and up with the Solano series, and it is still manufactured in Germany. This includes drivers, cabinets, crossover components. You can see some of the assembly process happening here. This is the second stage of assembly where we actually do a wire insertion into the folded ribbon tweeter that we use. The original folding of it is still done by hand. We have 4 full-time employees, and all they do all day long is fold this AMT tweeter by hand. Then it goes into the machine here for doing the wire insertion. Once it's done there, it comes back out and still manufactured by hand. We have somebody doing final assembly on the actual tweeter themselves. And then here's a big tray of completed tweeters. Once the speakers are fully assembled, we go through a QC process. You can see down here in the lower left. Just a cool story, the fact that a lot of the drivers are still handmade, still made in Germany, and that is not going to change anytime soon, especially on the premium made products. Now, what the driver we make the most out of this facility is going to be these jet tweeters. We consider it to be the most advanced and best quality AMT tweeter on the marketplace. And I think some of the partners that we have for this tweeter also lends itself to that credibility. We're currently distributed in over 50 different countries worldwide. All the little blue dots show that. And we have 3 core offices. We have the office here in Orange, California, where I'm located. We have an R&D facility in Toronto, Canada. And then we have the headquarters in Kiel, Germany. From an OEM perspective, one of the things I mentioned, we build a lot of those tweeters. So if you were to go buy a Porsche and you pick out the higher end audio system in those cars, they're going to be all fitted with the ELAC Jet AMT tweeter as the standard package in that premium audio system that's offered in pretty much every single Porsche model that's out there. We also are the driver supplier to Bugatti as well for this side, on the car side. And then for the first time in a long time, as a branded partner, Grundig, which is a high-end TV manufacturer sold all the way throughout Europe, is also utilize us to develop the sound system in their latest flagship QD OLED television sets, and even have the branding on the actual television sets themselves. This was announced at CES this year as a partnership between the two of us. We do some other OEM relationships, but a lot of OEM relationships you're not allowed to talk about publicly. So this is one that we are allowed to talk about because it's actually branded on the product itself. If we take a look at the categories that we are currently involved in, that we produce products for and sell to, we're in the home audio category, we're in the custom installation business, we're in the lifestyle audio, and then we have a category we call promotional audio. Promotional audio products that are end of life cycle, they've been replaced by a new generation of those older products, are utilized sometimes to advertise sales. We currently do not put anything on sale that is current in the lineup. It's got to be something that has actually been discontinued or replaced to be on sale. Let's talk about CI products first. So in the CI category, we have quite a few products, anything from in-wall and ceiling, on-walls, and some electronics as well. We'll start off at the top with the Vertex 3 in-wall and on-wall speakers. So the Vertex 3 is the flagship series of products that we manufacture. They utilize the exact same components that we utilize in a lot of our bookshelf and our floor standing speakers. One of the things that makes us a little unique is that every line of in-wall and in-ceiling speakers, the Vertex 1, 2, and 3, are based acoustically on one of our box or our floor standing speaker lineups. The Vertex 3 are based on our Vela series, which is our most popular line of premium two-channel speakers. And when I say most popular, I mean, if you take the categories of speakers we sell that are $2,000 and above for a pair of bookshelves, the Vela series, which is the second lineup, we start Solana, go to the Vela, is our most popular line of products. And the entire Vertex 3 line of in-ceiling and on-wall speakers was designed using those exact same drivers, exact same engineering, exact same components, and offer this exact same tonal match to those. So this utilizes a few different technologies that go in there and have a pretty good sized lineup. We have a basic 6.5-inch in-wall open baffle using our Jet 5 AMT tweeter. We have an in-ceiling speaker that is direct downward firing that uses the 6.5-inch driver along with the Jet 5 AMT tweeter. This is perfect for Atmos or distributed audio. Then we have an angled in-ceiling product. This is designed for home theater use. These are the same drivers as the previous two models. But one thing unique about this, and this is something we implemented about 5 years ago when we started building our very first set of in-ceiling speakers, is that we worked a lot with local dealers here in the Southern California area and installers to find out what they were doing. How were people buying their home theater systems? And there's quite a big trend of people trying to use in-ceiling speakers all the way around, including your front left, your center front right, to build a home theater system. We traveled with a few of the installers and got to experience what we heard. And one of the things that was very difficult is we always felt like it was a more compromised experience. And the main reason for that is that whenever you put a speaker in the ceiling and you're going to use it for your front left and your front right and your center, is that the audio usually always appears to come from the ceiling and not from the front of the room where the TV is located. So we started looking at different methods that different companies tried to use. Some of them offer a pivoting tweeter. Some of them offer a slight angle. The problem is most of those pivoting tweeters or the angles never adjusted more than 5 or 10 degrees. And when we would go back and measure those in our office at that same angle, there was no real measurable difference. It always still sounded like it was coming from the ceiling instead of the front of the room. So we built these two false walls that we could roll around and change the angles of, and started playing with different angles. Now we went with the most average room size. This is a room that actually has 8 to 10 foot ceilings, assuming somebody's going to be 12 to 14 feet away from the in-ceiling speakers, and started playing with the different angles that we could go with. Once we started to cross like 20 degrees, we started to hear a nice little shift from the ceiling to the front of the room. Once we crossed 25, it was a much better experience. And once we hit 30 degrees, 28, 29, and 30 degrees, the image completely shifted from the ceiling to the front of the room. The angle on these speakers at 30 degrees is quite severe. And it's not only the tweeter, but it's also the mid-range bass driver, to the point where we were worried about reflections of these drivers bouncing off the inside of the chassis for the in-ceiling speaker, that we ended up lining the inside with felt to absorb some of that, so we didn't get any diffractions, cabinet diffractions or enclosure diffractions in the room. But we ended up with was an in-ceiling home theater experience that just sounded significantly better than most of our competition. I'm sure other people have done the same way. There's no way for us to patent something like this because it's just an angle, but it ended up giving us a much better basis. And all of our in-ceiling home theater speakers utilize the exact same molding for these things. So they all have the exact same angle and the same acoustic capability as the one here in the Vertex 3. Once we get above that, now we move into what we consider to be our flagship in-wall pieces. So the IWVJ63, this is an in-wall version of our Vela BS403 bookshelf speakers. It utilizes the Jet AMT tweeter, the 6.5-inch bass driver with a 6.5-inch passive radiator. It includes a fully wood cabinet, the same that you would get if you were buying a bookshelf speaker. It is a sealed design using the passive radiator, and it's designed to be used both as vertically mounted or horizontally mounted. The speakers get quite heavy. If you go to the large version, this speaker is about 4 feet tall and weighs almost 100 pounds because of the amount of the drivers and the size of it and the wood cabinet. We ended up having to put aluminum dog legs around the entire speaker just because of the sheer weight of the product. But being able to mount these things horizontal or vertical, any speaker company can say that. We ran into a couple issues though. One of them is the fact that we're using an AMT tweeter that has a very distinctive dispersion pattern. So the first we made to do, if you're going to use it horizontally, this little plastic piece pulls off. You can rotate the tweeter 90 degrees, pop it back on there, and use it horizontally without an issue. But then we have just the overall dispersion pattern. Most speakers are designed to be sitting on stands or being floor setting speakers to keep the tweeter about ear level. The problem that we came across is with in-wall speakers, especially when they're mounted vertically, are usually mounted to the left and right, centered onto a television set. And when you do that, most of the time, the tweeter is usually slightly above ear level, if not a couple feet above ear level. So on each one of these speakers, there's a switch in the back of it that lets you choose whether it's horizontal or vertical. And that switch actually changes out some crossover components that control the dispersion pattern of the tweeter. So when they are mounted vertically, in the vertical mode, the angle of the dispersion pattern is slightly angled downwards towards the listener. And when they're mounted horizontally, we're assuming that it's mounted below the TV, which is most likely going to be at ear level. And now their dispersion pattern is directly forward. And that applies to all three of these models, as well as the on-wall versions of these. As we go up to the medium-sized one, you now have 2 active and 2 passive drivers, obviously for more output. And then the flagship piece is 3 active and 3 passive drivers. Once again, these are by far, to me, and I've listened to a bunch of these, and I know I said it was in market development. A month ago, I was responsible for product development here. We just had some changes of where we did some of the development. These are the best in-walls I've ever listened to, and they sound almost identical to the exact Vela speakers that we offer. From an expanded lineup, we also offer on-wall versions of those same speakers. You can see they just have a nice, more finished satin painted wood cabinet since we're going to be mounted on the wall, but the exact same performance level just sitting on there. Crossover is almost 100% identical, just slightly different because we know the front baffle has been moved out 3.5 inches from the wall on those things. But the same driver configuration, same feature sets we just talked about. And then we offer 2 different sound bars. These are both 3-channel passive sound bars. There's a dedicated left, center, and a dedicated right channel. The left channel has 1 tweeter, 1 active and 1 passive radiator, and a 4-inch driver. The center channel has 2 active and 2 passive because we know the center channel gets the majority of the volume in any type of 5.1 system or 3.1 system. And then the right, of course, has 1 active and 1 passive radiator along with the Jet 5 tweeter as well. We have the smaller model, which is designed for 55-inch TVs and larger, and the bigger one, which is designed for 65-inch TVs and larger. And the way we came with the width of these sound bars is we took the thinnest bezel 55-inch TV and the thinnest bezel 65-inch TVs in the marketplace and used that as the benchmark. So they'll fit it perfectly or sit a little inset from anything that's a little bit larger. We are looking at building a larger soundbar since the average TV size in the US has gotten much bigger over the last couple of years. From a technology standpoint, the Jet 5 AMT tweeter, this is not the latest version of this tweeter. We are on the Jet 6 right now, so this will be changed out at some time in the future. But the Jet 5 tweeter it's just the 5th version of the Jet that we originally started with in the 80s. And like I said, we're on the 6th version right now on some of the newer home and bookshelf products. It works, if you're not familiar with the folded ribbon, it works just like an accordion. You have the folded ribbon. As voltage comes in, it squeezes in and out and squeezes air out, which causes the sound to be created. The nice part about these is they're very easy to drive and they produce ultra high frequencies. Most of these tweeters go out to 50 kilohertz without any issues. We're not worried about reproducing 50K for the listener, but what we are worried about is when you cross 20 and 25K, it's a very flat frequency response. And having a speaker that goes out higher than that makes it much easier to achieve a flatter frequency response. On the bass driver mid-range in all of the Vertex 3, we use something called our crystal membrane woofer. It's a very thin sheet of aluminum with a stamped pattern into it that you can see here. And that stamped pattern adds rigidity without adding weight. It's the same principle that if you take a flat sheet of paper and wave it around, it's very floppy. If you crumble it up into a ball and then undo it, all those little facets that were created in the paper, now if you move it around, it's much more stiff, but we didn't change the physical properties or add any weight to it. But because it's made out of aluminum, we wanted to make sure there was no ringing that could happen with aluminum drivers. So we glued a very thin sheet of paper with the exact same pattern stamped to the back of it, once again to add more rigidity to it. And you know, with the bass driver, that far outperforms its size. One of the things you guys will notice on most of our products, the bass performance is really, really good. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we've designed these drivers in-house. We don't use any off-the-shelf drivers in any products that we manufacture, but it's a very unique structure, only we do it, and you'll find it across a variety of our different products in the lineup. We have the sealed wood cabinet on the 3 larger models. All the models come with slim magnetic paintable grills, and as I mentioned, the Vertex 3 is a perfect tonal match for our Vela series of products. Jump onto the Vertex 2, we'll jump down a category. Now we actually have a slightly different lineup. We have a 6.5-inch downward firing, perfect for Atmos or for distributed audio. We have a 6.5-inch angled home theater. We have the 8-inch now. We've introduced an 8-inch downward firing. And we have a 6.5-inch in-wall and a dual 5 1/4 LCR. Lower price points. and mainly because the drivers are going to be quite a bit different. We're going away from the Jet 6 tweeter, the Jet 5 tweeter, and moving to a soft dome tweeter. We go to an aluminum base driver without the stamp pattern. We do offer square grill adapters for all of these models for those that want to match it for certain lighting systems or certain just preferences in the way they look. The slim magnetic grills, and tonally, these are matched 100% to our debut reference line of products, which start at around $7.99 a pair for a pair of bookshelves. So you can mix and match bookshelves and a center and surrounds and have the exact same tonal match. We go to the Vertex One, the most affordable lineup in the Vertex series, and we gain actually a new SKU on this one. One of the things we introduced when we launched the Vertex One line originally was a 3.8-inch in-ceiling speaker. This is designed for very discrete distributed audio throughout your home. It's a small 3.8-inch polypropylene bass driver with a half-inch soft dome tweeter. And the goal of this is that this is the exact same size as a lot of popular lighting solutions. So this with either square or the round grill, you can mix and match light speaker, light speaker, light speaker. Cosmetically, it looks exactly the same, but you're going to be able to distribute audio very discreetly throughout the house. We also offer a 6.5-inch downward firing for distributed audio and Atmos, an angled 6.5 for home theater, an 8-inch downward firing, a 6.5-inch in-wall, and a dual 5.25-inch LCR speaker. From a technology standpoint, we use a slightly different tweeter. It's the same tweeter used in our debut 2 series of speakers, and we go from an aluminum bass driver to a polypropylene bass driver. We use square adapters, slim magnetic grills, and these are a tonal match to our debut 2 series of products, once again allowing the people to mix and match. We're seeing more and more people trying to combine not having a dedicated home theater, but having a media room used for both music and for movies. And some people still prefer to have a traditional floor stander or a bookshelf speaker as their primary music listening, and then the in-walls for the home theater add-ons. And this allows you to do it by making sure you have the same tonal balance. We go to some of our on-wall series. We have a series of products called the Murrow series. And the Murrow series were designed to have a very nice looking, slim form factor speaker that would mount to the wall to give you great audio. We have the OWV41S. This is a 1 4-inch aluminum and 1 4-inch passive radiator bass driver mixed with a 1-inch soft dome tweeter. It comes in a thin package that either has a satin black front baffle or a satin white painted front baffle. And they come with these really nice looking gray tweed grills, which make them look a little different. They look more, I don't know, more lifestyle oriented products. And they have a unique mounting capability on the back of it to where they fit very, very close to the wall. They have channels in the back for wiring to go through, but they have these little rubber grommets in the corners that are very, very squishy. You can actually mount the screw to the wall, push it against the wall, drop it down onto the mounting hardware, and as you pull down, it'll hold that squish. And those little rubber bumpers actually not only isolate it from the wall so they're not going to rattle, but allow it to fit very, very close to the wall. I used to have a picture in here showing it mounted to a wall. I don't know what happened to it. And there's 2 different sizes. There's the small, which you see here, and then a large version of it. The large version has 2 active and 2 passive radiators compared to the small with 1 and 1. Both of these also have that same switch we talked about on the Vertex 3 series of whether you're going to mount it horizontal or vertical with this exact same technology. We're going to just control the dispersion pattern through some changes in the crossover, which the switch enables. Then we have some more affordable soundbars. So rather than having the soundbars based off the Jet and the Crystal Cone bass drivers, we're using the same drivers we use for the on-wall speakers here. So a 4-inch aluminum mid-range bass driver along with a 1-inch soft dome tweeter. And once again, we offer it for both 55-inch TVs and 65-inch TVs are larger on these things. These sound great. I use this larger one along with a small subwoofer in my bedroom at home with a small 3.1 channel amplifier that we make connected to the TV, and it's a great sounding system. Technology-wise, the soft dome tweeter is the same that we use in our debut 2 series of products. We have the aluminum bass driver. Once again, it still has the sandwich, so it has the thin sheet of paper on the back of it. We have the slim magnetic grills for the front of it. It has a very large steel wall mount to it. One of the key things on these things is we wanted to make sure they mounted sturdy and they had a lot of play into it. So once you mount one plate to the back of the soundbar, the other plate to the wall, it allows a very nice tight fit, but it also allows for about 4 inches worth of play in one direction, or about 2.5 inches in either direction, so you can line it up with the TV set based on where the stud is in the wall. And like I said, the tonal match is the same as the debut 2 series. New for this year in the Muro series, we launched about 4 months ago, was our first line of outdoor speakers we've ever done. We wanted to do things a little bit different on these models. We make a 6.5 and an 8-inch model. We make a standard and a pro version. The pro version actually works 70 volt or 100 volt. There's a tap built right into it. But we built these with the idea that we were going to build them the same way we'd build a nice set of bookshelf speakers. I know I'm going to be out at your road show here in October. Yeah, I think it's October, in both locations, and we'll have these on display for you guys to listen to. Is that we wanted to build things that were a little bit unique. First of all, the mounting hardware. You can see that the tops are nice and slanted, and the actual mounting hardware for it doesn't mount on the outer edges of the cabinet, which we thought looked ugly. There's 2 slots in the back they slide into that still allow the flexibility to rotate and angle the speaker any way you want to. And we wanted to make sure that it met the highest standard for being outdoors. So all the products are IP66 rated. You can see here there's a watertight enclosure here where the speaker wires would go into. You would unscrew this, pull it off, feed your wire through it, tighten back the nut on top of it, and then cover this back up for creating a watertight seal on the product. There are port plugs that come pre-installed on the speaker as well. The only way to maintain the IP66 rating is to have them pre-installed, but you can remove the grill simply and pull these off if you want to get better bass response. And most places people end up putting outdoor speakers, they're usually slightly angled down, so pulling the port plugs is a pretty common practice. I use a pair of the 8-inch speakers in my backyard at home, hooked to a little Russ-Sound 100-watt amplifier. And I can't get over how much I listen to music or listen to podcasts when I'm out in the backyard. The speakers they just sound really, really good. They have very good bass response. I think you guys will be impressed with them. And as I mentioned on the pro versions, you have the 70 volt tap, and we have a different connector. These use traditional 5-way binding posts. And on the pro stuff, we use a Phoenix connector. There's a set of inputs and a set of outputs for daisy chaining. And then also with the tap, you have the different wattage settings, but there's also an 8 ohm setting. So if you guys didn't want to stock both models, you could stock just a pro and know you can switch to an 8 ohm setting. You can mix and match. And I've given demos using a pro version and a non-pro version and just switch to an 8 ohm tap, and they work just fine that way. But these have done really well for us so far. We just launched them, like I said, a few months ago, though. And we'll expand on the outdoor concept. Part of those new products I talked about for the 100th anniversary, they're going to see some really, really cool, stylish outdoor products from us next year as well. Talk about subwoofers. So when it comes to custom subwoofers, we offer 3 different SKUs right now. We have 2 unique products that offer vertical and horizontal mounting called the Sub 2010 and the Sub 2020, and 1 in-ceiling version. The smaller one, the Sub 2010, is unique in the fact that you can see that it's standing vertically right now. But one of the cool things about it is you can remove this grill from the cabinet, screw in feet that come in the box, and now lay it on its side. Now it's a horizontal mounted subwoofer. And the small 8-inch 250-watt version is small enough and short enough to fit under most beds. So you can fit this under a bed, connect it to a system, and not take up any footprint in the room. There's a larger version, which is the 10-inch version. That's also a 500-watt. These are peak power, by the way. Cut those in half for RMS. The 10-inch version does not get small enough to fit under a bed, but it's still a different form factor, so it takes up a little less space. And the nice part about these is they have wireless connections. So you don't have to physically connect an RCA cable to it for getting a signal to it. We use a really cool wireless technology called AirX, which allows you to talk to multiple subwoofers with 1 transmitter, but it makes it obviously easier to find a place for it. They also come with wall mounting hardware. So you can take these subwoofers and physically mount it to a wall. It'll sit upright like it is now, mount to the wall just to get it off the floor. And then we have an in-ceiling 6.5-inch dual bandpass subwoofer that's designed to go with that little 3.8-inch in-ceiling speaker we talked about as well. The port tube that's on it that comes out into the room is the exact same size and uses the exact same grill that the 3.8-inch Vertex 1 in-ceiling speaker works with. Talking about from technology, the 2 powered subwoofers use bash amplification, which we'll talk about a lot more when we get to the dedicated subsection. They are app controlled. So there's an app that you would use to set everything up, whether it's setting the low pass filter, whether it's doing parametric EQ, whether it's doing an auto EQ feature that we do. It's all app controlled, so you don't have to keep getting up and moving back and forth with the sub. The flexible mounting on the vertical horizontal ones, as you can see, There it is horizontally, there it is vertically. And then there's the AirX2 wireless transmitter that I talked about that works with these as well. Integrator series. Talk about some electronics real quick. When it comes to electronics, when it comes to amplifiers, this is an area that we're doing a lot more homework on right now. We offer 3 different SKUs right now. We offer a 3.1 channel behind the TV amplifier, and then we offer 2 standard multi-channel amplifiers. The most popular one we sell is this 3.1 channel amp. It's called the ISAMP 340. Sells for $800, and it's configurable. And it's configurable via web GUI. What makes it unique is the fact that anybody can use it, because we not only sell this to installers, it is sold for a consumer to use. There's a consumer app that they can make certain adjustments, and then there's the web interface, which is designed for the installers. But this amp is configured as either a 2x60 watt amplifier or a 3x40 watt amplifier, and that's determined during the setup process. It asks you, do you have a center channel? If you say yes, it configures it 3x40. If you say no, it's 2x60. So it's got a Phoenix connector for the speaker outlets, but from an input perspective, it has a set of analog connections on it. It has an optical connection. It has a subwoofer input, and it has a Bluetooth audio connection. The optical connection is tied to a true Dolby Digital decoder. So we will take Dolby Digital from your television set, take that 5.1 signal, mix it down to a 3.1, and using the sub output, we will give you a true left, center, right, and a 0.1 channel output. That makes it a little unique. And the big key to this is it has an Ethernet jack. So it works with all the popular control systems. We have drivers for Savant, for Control 4, for Crestron. I use it at home with that soundbar I talked about and a little subwoofer using a Control 4 system, which I have at home. It's a phenomenal little option. If you don't have a control system, it does come with a remote control. It has a remote eye, so you can teach it the commands of your cable box or your television set, as long as it's IR based. But it's a really, really cool little product. And mine's literally mounted. Mine's actually mounted with Velcro, just stuck to the back of the TV set with industrial Velcro, and it works great. Then we have the 2 bigger amplifiers. We have the ISAMP 8100 and the ISAMP 1650. The 8100 is an 8x100 watt matrix amplifier, and the 1650 is a 16 channel 50 watt amplifier. Now, one of the things I always talk about when it comes to these amplifiers is this is a category that's becoming increasingly more difficult for third-party brands like ourselves. A lot of the installers nowadays they want to pair the amplifier with the same brand as the control company, just because they're guaranteed to work together, because they build both of them. We work fine with all these products, but we're seeing a little bit of a shift. So one of the things that we're doing, and we'll be able to discuss more next year, is what our strategy long-term is going to be for some of these amplifiers. The amplifiers themselves work great. They're Class D amplifier based. They have a beautiful web GUI for setting it up. We offer everything full matrix, any input to any output. You have parametric EQs for every single channel. You have configurable audio outputs, RCAs in the back. So you can say, I want to power a set of in-ceiling speakers in this room through the speaker level outputs. Then I want to run an RCA to a powered subwoofer in the same room. And through the web interface, I can configure that as saying, okay, the in-ceiling speaker is going to get everything from 80 hertz and above. I want the sub to handle 80 hertz and below. And I can play with the parametric EQ to blend that a little better, all from the web interface. We also do unique things too. If you're going to have the amplifier in a rack and you're going to have a room on the other side of the house, and you want to set the maximum output level just before clipping happens, so you can set the maximum output, you don't have to run to the room and crank it up to hear clipping. There's little visual indicators in the web user interface that show you when the amplifier goes into clipping. You can back it off a little bit and set that as the maximum output. It monitors temperature, it monitors all the stuff you want, and all the amplifiers are configured to, once you configure one, you can save that configuration and then upload it to another amplifier if you're rolling it out. This is more of a case when you're doing things like the 3-channel amplifier. We had the Amman Hotel in New York, and now the one in Mexico City, just put a couple hundred of those ISAMP 340s in their suites that they have there, and that's what's running the audio system for those. And it's all via Ethernet, and they literally have multiple, like 100 amps on a single network. It's crazy. And we don't get calls all the time, and neither does the installer, but the amps work incredibly well. But like I said, we're investigating this to see what the long-term strategy is going to be for the amplifiers. If it's going to just keep this lineup and add additional SKUs or replace the SKUs, is something we'll discuss. We talked a little bit about it when we had some of your folks up at our office in Toronto a couple of weeks ago, and we'll share more of that as we get to it. And then the last part of the CI series is something we call the Solution Series. This is the first product that's part of it. And this came out of a request from one of our distributors. They a lot of times are doing a full-size house and they need a solution to add better audio to a television set in a smaller room in the house. The problem is TVs nowadays, in their quest to be as thin as possible, have removed the analog audio outputs. Those were the first to go away. Then people were using the headphone jacks to get something tied to the TV's volume control. And then the headphone jacks went away because they wanted the TV to be thinner and thinner and thinner. So what we were left with is ARC solutions. If you don't want to put a receiver in there or buy a pair of speakers that only work with ARC, we built a box that connects to the TV over HDMI that gives you a set of analog outputs that is tied to the TV's volume control. So you connect it to, we've tested with LG, TCL, Samsung, all the major brands, Sony out there, connected via HDMI to the TV set, use the analog outputs to any type of amplifier or set of powered speakers, and now you have variable analog output from the TV set that didn't have it before you put this product on there. It's a very cool solutions-based thing. We have a lot of installers that keep these on their trucks out there for solving issues. Now you'll notice in the back there's also a set of analog inputs. We also wanted to build, we know that people love having distributed audio. They love having their Sonos ports or Sonos speakers in a room. We wanted the ability that if somebody wanted to use another streaming device or a Bluetooth device in that room, that there was a way that they could also enjoy it through the same sound system. So what we've done is that set of analog inputs on there can be connected to something like a Sonos port. You take the left and right out of it, run into the analog inputs on this. And now what happens is if you're watching television and you start something on the Sonos port here, it's automatically going to switch from HDMI audio to the analog audio. Once the audio stops coming from the Sonos port, it actually switches back to the HDMI audio. It happens automatically. There's two different little dials in the back of this unit. One of them is to set the voltage threshold. So you can say that if the voltage coming in drops below a certain, 100 millivolts, to switch over. The other one is time. What we didn't want to happen if somebody's listening to music that gets to a very quiet passage, that could last 2 or 3 seconds for it to switch back to HDMI, only when the music starts back to come back. So you can set that anywhere from 1 second to 10 seconds of blank audio before it'll switch back over. It's just a cool little box. There's no programming necessary. It's just those two dials in the back and connected. And it works really well. It works really well. Now we're going to talk about subwoofers. So I'm going to jump to a different deck here because I haven't integrated this one yet. But we'll talk about ELAC subwoofers. Now this one's a dedicated section is because it was so important to us. We've made huge strides in the premium subwoofer space over the last year, especially through the custom install channel, because we offer things that most of our competitors don't. The lineup is called the Vero series of subwoofer. Vero is Latin it means durable and strong. And the lineup is pretty big. It ranges from $699 up to $3,200. But when we built this lineup, we wanted to make sure that what's going to separate this line of subwoofers from what you can buy for $200 or $300 at Costco or at Amazon. So what is it that identifies itself as a premium subwoofer? We have a lot of premium subs. We have SVS, we have REL, we have JL Audio. We have some really good brands out there. But how are we going to separate ourselves and what makes those things premium? So what we did is we wanted to make sure that every model in this lineup, whether it's the $700 piece or the $3,200 piece, has a core set of features that's separated from the more affordable entry-level stuff. The first thing is going to be the build quality. Thick MDF cabinets. Each cabinet is at least 30 millimeters thick, not only the external structure, but also the internal cross bracing. And it goes up to 36 millimeters depending on the series. We have powerful and efficient bash amplifiers. We'll talk about exactly what that is in just a couple of minutes when we get to it. We wanted fast DSPs because what people don't want, especially for movies and music, that they don't want the audio and the sub to get hung up or be delayed behind what's happening on the main speakers. So rather than using one, we use two, and they're very fast. And then we want full control. We introduced the very first ever app-controlled subwoofer back in 2015. It was an industry first called the S10EQ. We're now on our third generation of that, and it launched with this new series. We've made brand new apps in-house. It is all designed in-house, both the technology as well as the app itself. It gives us some really, really strong benefits over our competitors. Talk about the brace MDF cabinets first. So each Vero subwoofer is constructed using thick MDF cabinets and internal bracing. So in the Vero lineup, you have the premium subs, the reference subs, and the dual reference subs. The premium subs are ported, so they're not going to build up as much air pressure inside, and those use the 30 millimeter thick cabinets. Then we have the reference subs, which are now sealed. And now we go to 35 or inch and 3/8 thick walls and bracing. And then we have the dual reference subs. Now we're pushing starting at 1,000 watts RMS to these things. So we go to 36 on these subwoofers. We talk about bass amplification. So bass amplification was actually designed by our CEO, a company he had before, designed this technology. It was a combination of combining both Class D and Class AB. People love a good Class AB amplifier from a sound quality performance. The problem with Class AB amplifiers is that they're very wasteful. They're very non-efficient. You have full voltage on the rails 100% of the time, no matter if you're playing something very quiet or you're playing something very loud. Class D came out and varied that. What we did is we combined the two technologies, something called bass amplification. This little chart kind of shows a waveform going into the amplifier. So what we do is when you connect a signal to the subwoofer, it analyzes that incoming audio signal 400,000 times a second and delivers as much voltage as necessary. If you take a look at this chart here, you can see this, let me put the pointer back on, this purple line and this blue line. That is the incoming audio signal that we need to reproduce. And then the red line and the green line is the voltage we're giving the amplifier rails in the Class AB output stage to reproduce that, plus some headroom in case there's a sudden huge impact of audio or the signal lasts for a long period of time. We want the headroom to do it. But we can create massive, massive voltage swings at massive outputs to give demanding content more efficiently than we can ever with a Class AB output, a pure Class AB amplifier. And we run just a little bit warmer than a traditional Class D, but we get that pure Class AB signal output quality. It's a very unique technology. We use it on our own, and you'll see other products in the industry that actually have this bash logo you see down at the bottom on it. And it just means that it was using the same technology that we developed. Then we talk about the DSPs in this. So like I mentioned, we have dual 28-bit DSPs. And that means we're just getting the signal through as fast as possible. We're doing a lot of DSP work, letting the customer do some things on here. So we want to make sure it got through really quick. But we also use high quality DSPs. We're using Asahi Chemical, which also makes some of the best DACs in the world. So the sub app, as I mentioned, it's a brand new version of the app. And one of the things that we get a lot of questions through our customer service line is, I'm looking at adding subs to my system. Should I put one 15-inch subwoofer or should I put two smaller subs? We usually always recommend putting two smaller subs or multiple subs in a system. It just gives you much better blending of bass throughout the room. So we knew when we did the app, we wanted to make sure the app can control more than one subwoofer at a time. So what we ended up with a subwoofer that actually controls up to 8 subs at the same time. So we use a technology called Bluetooth Low Energy. And what makes that different compared to regular Bluetooth is there's no pairing process necessary. If you have the subwoofer in the room and it's powered on, if you launch the app, it's going to find it and allow you to control it. You never want to go through the pairing process. If you do, it'll actually break the connection and it won't work. You then have to forget it and just go back to normal. But you can see here on some of the screenshots from the app on the left-hand side, I turned it on here at the office and we had 4 subs that all showed up. And I can control this master volume, which will actually control all 4 subs volume in reference to where they're currently set. So if one's set to 25 and the next one's 35 and 75, as I raise them up, it's going to raise each one up on that number. Or you click on individual subs, you can control each one individually. Plus you have all your traditional settings like low pass frequency, phase angle, delay. You can adjust the LED intensity if you don't want it to light up the back wall or the floor in front of the room or turn the LED off. Then you have an 8-band parametric EQ. That's 5 bands more than the number 2 guy out there. That can be done by the user if he truly wants to dial in the subwoofer as accurately as possible into his living room or wherever his home theater space. But the key to all this is something we developed and launched back in 2015 is called Auto EQ. We know that most people are not going to put subwoofers where they're supposed to be. There's something, if you guys are old enough, there used to be something called a subwoofer crawl you do in a room. You'd sit in your listening position, you'd literally move the subwoofer around to different locations until you found the place that until it sounded best at the listening position. We know most people are not going to do that. They're going to put the sub in the corner. They're going to put it where it looks the best. So we figured out how can we actually get the best experience out of that sub knowing it's probably going to be in the wrong place. So we came up with this Auto EQ feature. And it works incredibly simple. It takes about a minute worth of process. And when you go to Auto EQ, it walks you through a process. And as you take your phone with the app and hold the microphone about 2 inches away from the bass driver on the subwoofer, and you hit start. And what it's going to do, it's going to play a series of test tones, and it's going to time limit those. So we're only recording the first, I can't remember the exact, like the first 10 or 15 milliseconds of that signal. And the reason for that is we only want to hear what's coming out of the sub. We don't want to hear it bouncing off the wall or any room reflections. By storing just what's coming out of the sub, we're now storing a near field measurement. That is the way we design the subwoofer in an anechoic chamber. Then we have you go back to the listening position, and it has another set of measurements. It's going to play the same test tones a little bit louder because we know you're further away from it, and we're going to store those. But now we're not going to time limit it, and now you're going to see the room impacted. You can see the red line was the near field. The blue line here with all these jaggeds is all what the influence in the room that it had. And then this green line is how internally the subwoofer uses a 16-band parametric EQ internally and auto EQs the listening room measurement to look like the near field measurement, thus eliminating the influence of the room. Now you can see we lost a little bit of level to make some of these adjustments, but you can then simply go in and raise the input gain of the amplifier on the subwoofer to get some of that back. But what this thing does, it's just a unique way to do this, is that we are taking whatever room you have in your home, whatever your configuration, wherever furniture is, wherever you placed it, and wherever your listening position is, and gave you the best scenario for that particular instance. It makes a massive difference, especially in really bad rooms. If the room has got tons of room treatment, it's already been set up, it may not make as much of a difference, but most rooms, it makes a massive difference. It's a very cool feature. Like I said, this is the third iteration of the auto EQ we've done, and the third version of the app. And like I said, it's all designed in-house now too. We talk about the three different lineups. We'll talk about the, I don't know where this is, if this is sitting on everything or not. The Vero Premiums, I'll go through these very quickly, but what I'll touch about on all these different subwoofer models is the fact of what you gain as you go up on the lineup. So the entry-level premium, the PS250, it's a 10-inch custom long throw, 2-inch voice coil woofer that has a 250-watt RMS amp that goes to 500 watts peak, and it's anechoically 27 hertz down to 24 in room with an SPL of 108 dB. The thing that I call some of these out is for, as you go through the lineup, you're going to see differences between all the bass drivers, where you may only gain like a couple of hertz lower in frequency response, you may gain a ton of more output. And that's what's really important. People want bass that's not distorted, and they want to output at a massive level. That's necessary. So that's one of the things that we're able to do on all these subwoofers. We go to the PS350, the model above this, you now go to a 12-inch version of that bass driver. Now you got a 24 hertz and 21 hertz, and we gained a dB worth of output with some lower output, with some higher output. We go to the PS500. This is one of the best deals out there. This is a 15-inch long throw woofer with a 2-inch voice coil, a 500-watt amplifier. Anechoically, it goes down to subsonic, so it's going to be below 20 hertz. And in room, it goes down to 16 hertz. And we put the room dimensions on our website, since in room is unique to every single situation. But the SPL jumped to 115 dB. This is a massive amount of output for a 15-inch subwoofer. Now, this is ported as well, like I said. Then we're going to show you some of the photos of what the subwoofer actually looks like. That's what it actually looks in the room. Some of the images make it look a little too shiny, and it's not. They look more like this. And from an input perspective, this subwoofer only has analog inputs on it. Now, when we jump to the reference series, this is where we sell the most of our subwoofers, is in the reference lineup. You get that thicker cabinet because now we're talking a sealed cabinet. We jump to 35 millimeters, we get better connectivity and a completely different driver and surround technology. From the connectivity side, we're now gaining speaker level inputs as well as analog inputs. The speaker level inputs, a lot of people believe the best way to connect a subwoofer is connected in line with the main speakers. And this allows you to do that. You can connect the speakers wires out of your receiver or amplifier into the subwoofer and to the speakers at the same time. Since there's no load on this, as we're reading into an amplifier, it won't change the impedance going to the amplifier. But it's a way to do it, or for older gear that doesn't have subwoofer output levels. We get wireless input. So now both the reference and the dual reference series have wireless receivers built into the back of it. It's literally sitting behind this plastic panel on the back. And what that allows you to do is buy our AirX2 wireless transmitter. And as I mentioned earlier, this transmitter is a stereo input to 3 outputs. So you can run the sub out of a receiver into this and drive 3 subwoofers wirelessly in the same room. It works incredibly well. It's a first in, first out type of deal. So you hold down the power button on the bottom of the transmitter, it starts flashing. hold down the button on one of the subwoofers, it flashes and then goes solid, it's connected. Do that again to the second subwoofer, do it again to the third subwoofer, and they're all three running wireless. Now, if you go to add a fourth one, it's going to kick out the very first one you did. Pretty simple, but it's a very cool wireless technology, unique compared to some of our competitors do. CI friendly features. All the reference series also have an Ethernet port, and they have a 12-volt trigger. The Ethernet port allows for third-party control systems to adjust things like volume, DSP modes, and power modes via the home network. And the 12-volt trigger, I think you guys know, just allows it to be turned on with another device. Now, one of the key differences here is when we look at traditional subwoofers, the limiting factor in the output level is the surround. Once you start to push the surround beyond its capability, it starts to stretch and distort, causing all sorts of distortion in the audio. And if you're not aware, when any type of surround needs to move in or out, the more it's being asked to move in or out, every millimeter further it moves requires more and more power, an exponential amount of power. So every bit of millimeter further out it goes, it takes more power than it did to move at the first millimeter, then the second millimeter, then the third millimeter. And that is due in all of our analysis, and we had a physicist on board that did all the work on this, it was the surround that was the limiting factor, the geometry, the traditional rolled surround. That's found on the premium subs I just went over, as well as on most of our competitors. The hex surround that we developed is a unique geometry applied to it that takes about half as much power to move the exact same amount of distance as the traditional rolled surround. So for the same size bass driver as any of our competitors' 10-inch bass driver, ours with our hex surround can move. It takes half as much power to move that surround out further, which gives us tremendous output capability from usually a smaller box or the same size box as one of our competitors. It is a unique to ELAC. We developed it, we patented it, we modeled it, and it's pretty crazy. This chart shows the displacement versus force. This red line here shows the best scenario, the perfect amount of input to the perfect amount of output, a completely linear relationship. This kind of yellowish mustard line here is a traditional rolled surround. This is done with our premium line of subwoofers. This blue line is the hex surround. You can see it's about half as much or twice as much output compared to what we did for the traditional rolled surround. And like I said, this is unique to us. It's a very cool technology that's on all four of the premium model or the reference subwoofers. The reference they are is 500s. Like I said, this is the most popular model we have. It has a 2.5-inch voice coil, the long throw aluminum sandwich bass driver, along with the hex surround, and it coaxially goes down to 18 hertz, 15 hertz in room, but 108 dB worth of output, and it's a 500-watt amplifier. The 12-inch version of that now goes to 17 and 14 with a 700-watt amplifier with 111 dB worth of output. And then we get to the bigger ones. This subwoofer too, the reference here also looks a lot nicer. It's a black satin painted cabinet compared to the premium, which was a vinyl finish, and just a much nicer looking subwoofer. Then we go to the dual reference. The dual reference models have the thicker cabinet because now we're pushing bigger amplifiers, improved connectivity, and they have dual versions of those bass drivers. So in addition to the speaker level analog and wireless, we now add XLR inputs. So those that are using equipment with XLR balanced outputs, or if they need to run really long runs, it just makes them more compatible with higher end equipment. And then we get dual bass drivers. You can see one on the left-hand side, one on the right-hand side. Now the cabinets themselves are not square. They're actually kind of a trapezoid shaped. And the reason for that is most people put subwoofers in the corner, and we didn't want the bass driver firing directly into the wall. Having that slight angle in front allows the first reflection point of that bass driver to be in front of the cabinet, so it's not going to bounce right back into it. But now we're talking massive amounts of difference. We have a 1,000-watt amplifier, dual bass drivers. They go down to 18 and 15 at 115 dB worth of output on a very small box when you guys see these things in person. And then you have the dual 12-inch version, which go down to 16 and 14 with 118 dB worth of output. And these come in a gloss black finish, but a beautiful, beautiful cabinet. And that's it on subs. I'm going to go back to the, why am I not able to? There we go. Switch back to them, and I am running long, and I'm going to try to get back on track here. We'll jump to the home products. And the home side of products that we have quite a variety of lineup, and we're going to do some consolidation next year on some of these lines as well. But we start off with the Concentra series. The Concentra series is our flagship products we make in the home. They range in price from $3,700 each for a bookshelf, and they actually go up. We just replaced the second from the top model. We replaced the flagship piece at the beginning of the year. But these are unique. These are all based on concentric driver designs and three-way designs at least. So the bookshelf speaker, the CVS 503, is a 7-inch three-way bookshelf speaker. But unlike our other products in the lineup, we use the concentric version of the Jet tweeter. So you have a Jet 6 AMT tweeter concentrically mounted inside of a 5-inch upper mid-range driver paired with a 7-inch bass driver using the ASXR cone. Then we have the bigger brother of a floor standard of this, which is my favorite speaker we make right now, which has the same configuration for the high frequencies. It has the Jet 6 AMT tweeter, along with a 5-inch upper mid-range, a 6-inch lower mid-range, and 4 6-inch bass drivers. Then we have a bigger piece, which goes to 4 8-inch bass drivers in a larger cabinet. And then you have this new model that just got launched at the Munich Hi-Fi show. This is the direction the two flagship products are going to go to. You can see rather than using a 5-inch mid-range driver as in the concentric fashion, you're going to see the 6 2-inch mid-range drivers that are controlled via dials in the back that control how much output is coming into each one of those. And this allows you to control the dispersion pattern based on the room that you're in. So using these dials in the back, there's all these different presets that if you have one speaker that's up against a wall, but the other speaker is into an open space, you can tweak each speaker to sound properly based on the dials in the back by tuning the high frequency output based on which one of these drivers are on or how many are on and how much is on. It's a very, very unique strategy that we've gone with. It's completely passive. There's no electronics. There's no AC power to drive these things. We're going to be getting these in October, the first set of these, and we're going to be doing tours around the US at key dealers and distributors so we can show these off to people. These are $22,000 each, and then the flagship piece are about $40,000 each, but those haven't been announced yet or haven't been shown yet. We jump to the technology. Like I said, the VX Jet, you can see what that looks like. The ASXR bass driver, the VX Jet alignment tool. This is designed for the lower ones. So you can kind of tune the dispersion pattern by adjusting a dial on the back of the speaker that moves the driver in and out. They're beautiful designs. And of course, they're bi-wireable. But this represents the best that we can do. Once again, of course, all manufactured in Germany. Then we get to the Vela 2.0 series. The Vela series, as I mentioned, is our most popular series. This is the lineup that the Vertex 3 speakers, or in-wall speakers, are based off of. We start off with a 6-inch two-way speaker, so no longer concentric, but in a two-way configuration. The Jet 6 AMT tweeter with a 6-inch ASXR crystal cone bass driver and a beautiful trapezoid-shaped cabinet with cast aluminum base at the bottom, cast aluminum at the top, and it's vented out of the bottom using a high heel. I'll show you in a minute. There's a bigger brother, which is a 7-inch version of that in a larger cabinet. There's a dual 6-inch center channel. There is a dual 6-inch floor standing speaker, and then a dual 7-inch with a 5-inch upper mid-range or lower mid-range bass driver and the Jet tweeter here in a 4-way configuration. If you compared those Vertex 3 in-walls, this is the small in-wall, this is the medium-sized in-wall, and this is the large in-wall for the Vertex 3 series, which is why the pricing is very similar to what you saw there, just done in an in-wall or on-wall fashion. Technology-wise, the Jet 6 tweeter likes is still handcrafted. In Germany, the ASXR bass driver, here's that bottom venting you can see in these two pictures, how they vent at the bottom. Just makes it easier for placement in the room by having vents at the bottom and venting directly out the back. Elegant design, construction is second to none, tons of bracing inside there. All the components of the crossover are spec'd by us. Sometimes they're manufactured by us. They have our branding on it. And of course, you can buy a wire. And these come in these beautiful colors, this oiled walnut, gloss black, or gloss white. We go to the Solano series, which is the most affordable way to get into the Jet 6 AMT tweeter. You get the same tweeter, it's in the Vela series, and you get a more simplified bass driver. Still aluminum sandwich, but not the crystal cone, but you don't get the elegant design, you don't get the unique shape. You still get bottom venting, but it's in a more simplistic fashion. But it was a way to get in there. This is one of the lines we're looking at consolidating with another line sometime next year. But it comes in a 6-inch bookshelf, a dual 6-inch center channel, and a dual 6-inch floor standing speaker. Those are the technologies, kind of already talked about them. We'll talk about our reference series. This is a really, really popular set of speakers. So this is using concentric designs again, but not with the jet tweeter, using a soft dome tweeter. You have a 1-inch soft dome tweeter mounted concentrically in the middle of a 4-inch aluminum mid-range, paired with a 6.5-inch bass driver. So the reference series is based off of the original Unify series, and there's a debut reference based off the original debut series. Those products that are the standard versions always had some not shortcuts, but they were strapped for hitting a certain price point. So we couldn't include everything we want to do. There were compromises made to that to hit a certain price point. We went back to the engineers after that and said, well, what if you didn't have those price constraints? What would you have done different? And they said, well, I would have used cast chassis on the drivers. I would have made the speaker look nicer. I would have put a curved front baffle. I would have gone to a slot port instead of a rear port. So we took all that and built reference versions of the Unify and the debut series, and this is what we came up with. We sold it through just different distribution channels, and they just turned out remarkable. Like I said, there's the 6.5-inch bookshelf, a dual 5.25-inch center, and a triple 5.25-inch floor stander. These come in 2 different colors. You can see here, they come with a black satin front painted baffle with a walnut finish, or they come in a white satin front baffle with a oak finish on them. And you can choose whichever one you want to. Technology-wise, like I mentioned, the concentric driver, you can see the bracing that goes on the floor stander, and we isolate the concentric from the rest of the cabinet to make sure things that are happening in the bass section don't have any negative effect on the vocals. Compound curvature on the driver, which allows it to eliminate distortion in the higher range, so you can actually blend it better with the mid-range. And then we have slot vents, so we ended up designing to be quieter than our traditional rear vents. Then we have debut reference. Debut reference, once again, is a 2-way version. It's a premium version of our debut series of speakers. These will be updated early next year with new versions that we shared some of the designs with your folks a couple of weeks ago. But these are more simple. So they use not a concentric driver, but 1-inch soft dome tweeter, a 6.5-inch bass driver. They still use cast aluminum chassis, and they have a similar design, except for they're now flat fronts, but they still have the same front black satin front painted baffle with a walnut side, or the oak version with the white front satin painted. But these are all 2-way configurations, not 3-way configurations like they were on the Unify reference versions. But once again, these have tons and tons of super positive reviews, like most of them, but these being the more affordable price point, even have more reviews than the rest of our products. Then we'll talk about Debut 3 as the last part of this. So Debut 3 is by far our most popular lineup of products. We just launched it a few months ago. It's doing incredibly well. The speakers just perform amazingly well. We changed quite a bit. There's a 5.25-inch bookshelf, a 6.5-inch bookshelf, a 5.25 and a 6.5-inch center channel, a 5.25 and 6.5-inch 3-way tower speaker, and then a brand new Atmos driver. So the Atmos speaker we had last year was just an Atmos speaker. It'd only be used for that. This year we've made it dual function. There's a switch in the back that allows you to switch in between Atmos enabled or switch to just an on-wall. So you can mount it on the wall, angle it down into the room as just a surround channel. But we made some pretty significant changes from the technology. The biggest one is we went from a soft dome tweeter to a brand new aluminum dome tweeter, which scared me a little bit until I heard it. They put a very thin layer of material on the backside of the dome, which softened it out, and it just pushes the envelope on everything. It sounds so good, and the reviews have been phenomenal. We use aramid fiber on the bass driver, which is a new version of it for this year. We have fully braced cabinets still at this price point. You can see the bracing on the floor stander here, and isolating the tweeter and the mid-range from the bass drivers on the floor stander. We still include 5-way binding posts. We use magnetic grills, and it's just a much better looking speaker than we've had in the past. I think we're pushed on time. We do have some lifestyle audio product, including powered speakers, one of those being the Debut Connect series. And we just launched another version of this. We started off with the DCB 41, which is a 4.5-inch bass driver, 1-inch soft dome tweeter. And we just launched its bigger brother, which is a 6.5-inch bass driver with a 1-inch soft dome tweeter. But technology-wise, they're very similar. Both have custom drivers, and they have multiple inputs. So the goal in this product is to make something you can just connect your TV to a turntable, to whatever you have in your room, and that could be your complete audio system. From an input perspective, they have a set of analog inputs that can be used with a record player because we built a phono stage in that you can use with a switch. They can be used just with a television set. They have an HDMI ARC input as well, connect to the TV and you're good to go. They have an optical input, so if you're using it with an older source or a TV that doesn't support ARC, you can connect it that way. They have a USB input, so you can connect it directly to a computer and use the computer's volume control as the input for it. They have a dedicated subwoofer output to connect to a sub, so you can add a full 2.1 system to it. The 4-inch model has traditional speaker outlets and two 50-watt amplifiers, one for each speaker. All the electronics are inside one of the speaker cabinets. The 6.5-inch version has four 80-watt amplifiers and a special umbilical cord that's a 12-foot cord. And that's because we power each driver individually in each cabinets, with the crossover being electronic. And that just gave us a lot more output. That 6.5-inch speaker also supports Dolby digital decoding. So it'll take 5.1 from a TV over ARC or from optical and down mix it to a proper 2.1 with an LFE output. And the 6-inch model also has a built-in app. So you can download the app and you can rename inputs. You can play with the EQ settings. There are presets that if you're mounting it near field, there are presets if it's up against a wall, just so you can get the most out of those speakers. Like I said, the 6.5-inch ones just launched about a month ago, actually. Are just now in the market. And they come in some beautiful colors. They come in the 4-inch comes in walnut, royal blue, orange, and black. And then the 6-in-1s come in an olive color that you see there. They come in black, walnut, and white as well. Then we make an add some version. This is a product that we co-developed with a Brooklyn-based clothing designer that allowed them cosmetically to design the speaker for what they consider to be their audience, which is a lifestyle, a clothing brand. We did this collab. They designed these grills for it. They designed the color of the unit. They designed the overall cosmetics of the unit. And the unique part is they marketed it to their audience. And this is our best-selling speaker. We sell more of these than any other power speaker because it was being marketed to non-audiophiles. It was marketed to live people just want to listen to records. The advertising campaign was completely different than what we would normally do with a traditional audio product. And you're going to see relationships with ADSM expand into other categories, and you'll also see additional relationships get announced with other vendors as well, so we can apply what we're trying to do to different audiences out there. And that's it. I went 7 minutes over, guys.